Welcome to Fresh Off the Set. I'm Carrie Hawker-Diaz.
And I'm David Osmond.
And I'm Laura Murray. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. It's like we have virtual friends out there that we haven't met, but we consider you all friends.
Yes, we can feel you. Yes, thank you for listening. Okay, I'm really excited for this podcast today. I got to sit down with Frankie and Jess. You know them as, basically legendary radio hosts. They have been in the business for so long. And they have launched their own podcast.
Oh my gosh,
cool.
I am so excited. So excited. I don't know Frankie as well as Jess, but Jess is one of those people that just, when you're around her, you just feel good because she's one of those people that genuinely cares about
that's the best
other
way
people.
to describe her. She is so genuine.
And she is just, being around her, you just feel really good. And those two together are
It's a perfect pair because he's exactly the same way.
They're just this dynamic duo. And finally, when I met Frankie and both of them together when they came in, I was like, these are two people who are genuine and just love others.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're so vulnerable and honest, and they're just so good behind a microphone of telling stories and connecting you to the audience. I got a chance to meet Frankie years ago as I grew up doing music, so we'd go on to the radio station, and he was always that top DJ guy, and he's always had the finger on the pulse of what was cool and so supportive of the things that we were doing, especially for the local community and our music scene, and such a good friend. Then we'd see him out at different public events or charity events.
They're always out and about.
They're always helping and to socialize and uplift others. They're just great. They're awesome. I'm so excited for this podcast for them and what the next endeavor is.
Yeah. Jess and I became really good friends. We've had her on the podcast before. It was one of our first. And so
it was one of my favorites.
She and I just clicked, and we've cried tears together. We love each other so much. And this was the first time I actually got to meet Frankie, and he is so incredible. I've admired him for so long. So it was really fun to meet him in person, just down to earth, cool.
Yeah.
They are a power duo, man. And when their podcast released a few weeks ago, you could just see the love from people in the community, how much people really love them.
Well, they do. On my Instagram, I would be getting on and going through stories, and I can't tell you how many stories I saw that were sharing their podcast with, things like, they're back with the podcast. We love their podcast. We're so excited for the podcast. Like, they are truly loved, and for a good reason.
Yeah.
These personalities become such a part of our lives because you tune in, you listen, you're on your drive time, you're getting to your work. You feel like they're right there with you, experiencing life. And so when you have another avenue like this and they have a medium to be able to share more, I'm so excited about what they're going to do for the future and what this podcast brings. So they're just getting started.
Go Frankie and Jess. Well, should we give it a listen?
Let's do it.
Okay, I have to say this is a little bit of a surreal moment. I'm here with headphones and a microphone with Frankie and Jess, who I've listened to for years. Thank you both for being here. This is a really exciting moment for us and our listeners.
Oh, we love you. We're excited to be here. This feels good.
It does feel good, and thank you for having us.
Of course. Okay, first of all, let's talk about your big announcement that you shared earlier this year. This is huge.
So the big announcement, January 2nd, coming off the holidays into the new year, is that we just released the Frankie and Jess podcast.
Yes.
Woo!
So we're
Okay,
excited.
this is so cool, you guys. What inspired you to start the podcast?
Well, getting laid off helped.
Fired.
We got laid off.
Yeah, we love to go back and forth with this laid off, fired. It's like my thing is if you get laid off, there's a chance of coming back.
Yeah.
When you get walked out in 6 minutes and it's just done after decades, it's fired. So
Okay,
anyway.
so I kind of see your point.
So I think that's what inspired us to do this. We just kind of opted not to go back into radio. We had a couple of local offers because we didn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
We love Utah. And we both were like, we're not leaving. So
this is home.
Yeah, and we kind of had talked about maybe doing a podcast years ago, but of course we had the radio show, and this was kind of the time we were like, let's just take a chance on ourselves And believe you me, it was terrifying. Still is
yeah.
a little scary, but we just kind of decided to take the chance.
It's a good scary.
Yeah.
The good scary. That's
Yeah.
right. When you jump outside of that bubble, it feels so good, but it is scary at first. And you two are just magic together. So I can see why you wanted to continue working together. How long have you both been in radio?
Well, let's see. Almost to the day for me for like when I got fired, it was 33 years in radio.
3 years, Frankie.
Yeah, crazy.
Jess, what about you?
I'm thinking because this goes pre-Utah. So probably, I'd say over 25 years now.
Over 25 years.
Yeah.
What got you into radio? Were you always interested in it, or how did you fall into it, Frankie?
So I had always been interested in it, and I think it was my dad, my late father, who introduced me to some old-time radio programs when I was about 7. And then I didn't know when I was like 14, that was the reason that I wanted to go into radio. So I went into a broadcasting school right out of high school in Detroit. And then that was but it took me into my 30s to figure out that my dad was the one that planted the seed.
Wow.
With radio. Yeah.
Okay, and you're from Detroit?
Yeah.
Okay, and when did you move to Salt Lake?
I moved here in September of 97 and then started at that radio station October 6th of 1997.
Okay, like right away almost.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Jess, what about you?
I always loved radio. My little boombox as a kid was my bestie.
Yeah.
So I had that little gray boombox, and I was obsessed with music and the DJs. And when I'd call and bug the crap out of the DJs, and be like, "Can you play this song?" Obsessed with radio, and I would make little tapes and had my own little radio station in my room. My sister was my co-host. She didn't love it as much. We would read ads out of the Red Book magazine of my mom's, and those were our commercials. Loved radio from a small age. And so it is, I know for both of us, it's a dream come true. We're so grateful that we followed our heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean to cut you off. Was there something you were going to say?
No, like I moved here for the job, and it's like, and it's like we were just such fans of radio. And but the good thing is, we opted not to go back into radio, but we knew that we needed to stay in the audible space, but it was questionable because how it happened with us getting let go or fired, it just really took a toll on our confidence. Yeah. So we were kind of like, is this what we're supposed to be doing? Mm-hmm. When we were kind of talking about doing the podcast, it really was, but then we just knew like deep down inside. And then when we started doing them immediately after getting fired, it felt like, okay, this is, absolutely what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, picking up the pieces,
healing. Sure. I can only imagine your fans and what they were thinking and going through because it's like family. You become one with all these people from Utah who are like, look up to you. When you announced the podcast, what have you been hearing from people? What's the reaction?
Oh, it has been amazingly, beautifully overwhelming in the best way. The fans, friends, our Frankie and Jess family, they've just talked about our best friends are back. Our morning routine is back. We feel like our security blanket, they call us their minky blanket, was ripped away.
Yeah.
And that's huge. We don't take that lightly. We don't take it for granted. And it feels so good to be back home with our family, our listener family. We just feel like we were on an island or we were grounded in our rooms and now we get to break out.
Yeah.
Well, and it felt like a death to
true.
us because how it happened and we weren't allowed to speak to listeners for a while.
Months and months.
And so we would see the messages on social media and we weren't allowed to say anything. Mm-hmm. So we actually it took a while where we could even like something.
I know.
So it was really traumatic in that sense. And we would hear that listeners said the same thing. It was like a death to them. So it was really kind of a weird time as we're getting ready for the podcast and we're recording, but we couldn't put anything out there and we couldn't communicate with listeners. So it was really, but it did help us as we're putting those in the can, so to speak, as we're getting the episodes. So it was therapeutic to us as we're processing through it. But again, there was still that lack of connection. And then obviously January 2nd when we were able to put them out, and then the reception has been just, I'm blown away. And I am so grateful for our listeners, but it's really surreal, and it's what's kept us going and keeps us going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're everywhere now. Everybody is posting about it. Everybody is talking about it. So it's really cool to see. I kind of knew that that's what would happen, but you both have such a beautiful friendship also between each other and with listeners, like we just mentioned. How have you seen that continue from radio to the podcast and beyond?
Oh, I think it's gotten so much better because we were under so much stress and we were so anxious and just kind of broken and just trying to get through each day. It was basically the past year and a half, 2 years of working in that industry, we were in survival mode. Now looking back, just trying to get through each day and trying to pump each other up and be each other's cheerleader with nothing left in the tank. And so now it's like a whole new rebirth. And he's always been one of my closest people in my life. You know, he knows everything, but now it's even more rich and more rewarding. And he's my best friend. I mean, it's been amazing.
You've gone through the trenches together, man. I mean, you really have. It's like you know, it's so good you guys had each other because you both knew what that felt like, what you were going through, that you could be there for each other.
Yeah, it's just, it's crazy. I was thinking about this the other night, actually. It's funny you asked that question and how much stronger our connection has gotten. And it was really strong before. And think about I didn't even think of it that way, but what we were in for as long as we were in it, and it was really just... I mean, you know, when you're in a toxic situation, right? And a lot of people with a toxic workplace and that sort of thing. And then you bring it home to your spouse, your family.
Yeah.
Just kind of spreads.
Yeah.
True.
And essentially, I mean, she's my work spouse, right? Because we've been together for so long. So you have that on top of your home family. And it's just, but yeah, I didn't even think of it that way, but it has definitely gotten stronger. So we were there kind of keeping each other afloat while it was happening. But it would weigh on the relationship then. When you think about it, how could it not?
Sure.
True.
But then as we were away from it and the dust settles and it's like, oh my gosh, we made it through this together. And it has made us that much stronger and more connected, which I didn't think was possible.
Same. And it's been so much more fun.
Yeah.
We're having fun again.
Yay.
It's almost like when we first started together and just goofy and lighter and just, it was like taking off a big heavy coat, you know, it just didn't serve us anymore. It didn't fit. And it just feels so much better.
How long did you host together before?
Almost 18 years.
Yeah, just
That's
shy.
a long time, you
long
guys.
time.
That's a really, really long time. Okay, and with the podcast, what kinds of stories will you share? What topics do you talk about so we can listen?
So it's a show about nothing. No, I'm just kidding. No,
People will still listen. Honestly, people will still listen. They love you.
Well, and so what we have, and when we launched this, we, like I said, started recording a month after getting fired from the job. So we have and had like 50 plus episodes in the time capsule. So that was like in real time. We would tell you the date and what we were feeling, the ups and the downs. So we kind of, it was an emotional roller coaster, but then we were just still checking in. So it's still a life in a fishbowl kind of show. I think it's very relatable. We just talk about like the foot episode that is in the time capsule where...
Hey, people like feet.
Yeah.
There are some obsessions.
True.
Jess-
I want to make some money.
Oh my
There you
gosh.
go.
Yeah, it's not that kind of foot episode.
That's
Yeah,
right.
but it
My
was
bad.
just real stuff. And that I think is what has really connected us with our listeners over the years, is just being real. So it's that type of a show. It's a life in a fishbowl kind of show.
And
Sure.
it's so many of our listeners, friends, and family. I mean, all of us go through this interesting, weird experiment called life.
Yeah.
So it's topics from the past weekend, or we'll have listeners reach out on social media or email, and they're like, "This happened to me. Did this happen to you? Or can anybody relate?" I mean, we've had so many people reach out that were like, "I was laid off. I was fired. I was walked out. I didn't realize that I was in a toxic work environment. I didn't realize how much, my last job really affected me and jarred me, and I need to seek therapy, and I'm not okay." So it's just been neat to have that community feel and sense, and that's pretty much what our show is. It's almost like the key to our diary. We're very open and raw and real and vulnerable, but also how are we all relating and bringing things to light that maybe people don't want to talk about, but now they feel comfortable to.
Right. I'm sure you've helped a lot of people who have been through a similar situation thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do. My life has been turned upside down and turning it into this now. So it's sure being so inspired and inspiring so many. And you guys used to, how early would you get up? Because you're not taping early anymore, right?
Oh,
No way.
We're doing things our way. Yeah.
So nice.
So let's see, for 30 years, because I started doing mornings in Jacksonville, the first morning show. So for 30 years, I've been getting up well, that was actually earlier, but anywhere from 2 to 3 a.m. is when I would get up. Yeah.
That's
Dang.
disgusting.
It was
And just
messed
be
up.
ready to entertain.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know
Ready
about
to
that.
go.
Yeah, you were.
Well, you were. Yeah. And no more mornings. I like that.
Oh, it was awful. We hate to get up early now. Like
Yeah.
3:45, 4 o'clock is when I would get up, and that was almost for 18 years. And it just takes a toll on your body. Carrie, you and I have talked about autoimmune stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that just made it even worse. I mean, when you're not getting rest and your body doesn't have time to clean the brain and shut down and fully reboot, it just stunk.
Yeah. Well, I think it affects so much like the night before, right? Because at least when I filled in before for morning live hits, I'm always thinking, okay, I got to fall asleep.
Yeah.
I got to wind down. And I have a daughter, and it's like, so I think it's like that night before. So it affects so much more than just waking
You're
up
right.
that early.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm trying to think how we connected, because we've always been friends kind of like on social.
Yeah.
But then we eventually met. Was it this podcast that because
It
you've been on
was.
this?
Yeah, so it was the podcast, and then we've gone to lunch a few times.
Yeah.
We would see each other at like charity events and different social things. So yeah, we were just
And
meant
we
to
just
be.
became really good friends. We connected on a lot of things.
Oh, totally.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to do something fun now. We're going to have I found this list, so we'll chat about this. A list of things that Redditors secretly love, but they won't admit it. They don't want to say it out loud. So I'm going to read a couple of these, and then we'll maybe get your opinion. Is there anything that you just love, but you're like, yeah, I don't want to admit that? Somebody says ironing clothes, a dozen of them. Can't explain how it relaxes me. I told one person, and they looked at me like I'm crazy. Somebody said office supplies. I have a weird obsession and a special place in my heart for office supplies, and I don't want to say it out loud.
That's funny.
Somebody else said, I love Cats the Musical. I know all the lore. I know all the names of the cats. I love it.
It's not me. Musicals make me angry.
Yeah, they do.
They really do. Like, I don't know, like angry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Pimple popping videos.
Oh.
Somebody
My
says
husband.
they are
Kevin.
my favorite.
Oh,
They-
yours too? Or
no,
oh.
someone in here. Yeah.
I thought you said yours too.
secret.
They'll come up on my feed, and I'm like, oh, go. I have to go past them because it
nasty.
just makes me kind of vomit. Let's see what else is there anything that I can say on here?
Right. Hey, it's a podcast. You do you.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, you still have bosses.
That's probably it
Okay.
on this list. Is there anything that you though are like, you know what, I really love this, but I don't talk about it that much?
Well,
gosh.
with our show, see, that's the thing. We're almost like throwing up stuff. Like,
Yeah.
blah, maybe that was too much, but we do. This is a topic we've done for years, and that is something that it's the guilty habit, the guilty pleasure.
The guilty pleasure,
that you're not
that
proud
we
of.
all have that we don't want to admit.
So mine is probably like the Real Housewives, and
Hey, but he's the OG. He
Yeah.
liked it. He had liked it and admitted it before any other man on this earth.
But
Because
it's-
I was like, why are you admitting that? And that was with what, Jersey and New York
it
back
was
in the day.
OC is the
Oh,
OG,
okay,
yeah,
good.
And
then
that's what I was going to say. What was the first one? Was it OC?
OC, yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
think that's what I read. I don't know.
Totally. Yeah. That's what he was Googling it.
Yeah,
He just
yeah.
read that. Yeah. I remember watching, the first one I watched was Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
And then I followed Kim after that and on her show, Don't Be Tardy or whatever her show
yeah.
was. So I loved her. And then Salt Lake has just blown up.
Okay, that's
crazy.
the only one I've ever watched in the whole franchise. Obsessed.
It's
and
so
we're,
good.
We're tight with Whitney. We love her. We'll be on her podcast. She's going to be on
She's
ours.
been on this one too.
Oh,
We
she's
love,
a doll
yeah,
baby.
we love her.
We
She's
love
great.
her. We've met Heather. I've met Lisa Barlow at an event. Oh, I think it was that Utah Foster
the one
Care
that we
Night.
were at?
Yeah,
Okay,
one
yeah.
of those. Yeah, they're great girls. This last episode, or actually, I think it would be a few weeks ago now, because now they're just finishing up the reunion.
Yeah.
My mouth was on the floor.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Don't give it away. I'm not
Dude,
caught up
Okay.
yet. I'm not
Oh,
caught
you
up.
haven't seen it.
not caught
Okay.
up.
One of the
Okay.
best reality TV episodes in my entire life.
Really?
I was blown
I just got
away.
the chills, and everybody is saying that throughout all of the different
Dirty.
franchises. People are saying that this is like,
wow.
like didn't see it coming. Like, yeah. So, actually with Angie K, I used to work for her at Lunatic Fringe.
no way.
And so we've been trying to get her on the podcast. So Angie, if you're listening,
Oh, okay.
the invite's still open.
We're friends with her sister-in-law, so I'll make a call to Kristen. But also, Frankie's got a connection too.
Yeah, so it's Small Lake City, right? We always say Small Lake.
Yes.
So my wife Tammy actually dated Sean back in high school.
Oh, how funny.
Isn't that
together.
great?
Okay, yeah.
crazy?
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He and Angie were
darling.
so amazing to work for. They were so inspiring. Their salon is doing amazing, Lunatic Fringe. So
it's so popular.
It's really fun to see her, and I know brought a lot of flavor to this season.
Oh yeah.
So when my wife Tammy's hairstylist is Humi, who works for Lunatic
Yes,
Fringe and
yes.
does Lisa Barlow's hair.
Oh,
so
okay.
Small Lake City at its
Man.
finest.
Yeah.
We just need to go in there and sit and wait
I know,
for
right?
people.
Totally.
We'll just wait for people to come in because that would be would be pretty cool. Okay, Jess, what about you? Is there anything that you're like, I really love this, but I don't want to say it?
Okay, so it's kind of weird because I'm gonna go the weird route because it's fun.
Do it.
I like to peel sunburned skin.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
growing up in Phoenix, I get burned just to peel
So
it.
you and
It's so
Kevin
psycho.
complement each other. He's got the pimple popping thing. You got the skin picking
You got
thing.
each other's backs covered.
Yeah, you guys are. You guys are made for each
Yeah,
other. That's
I can
great.
see. I can see that though. I used to, you just peel it off. It is kind of satisfying. I can see that.
We would put the Elmer's glue and then peel it off.
That's where it started.
Yes. It goes back to the office supplies.
Okay. Okay. I like Nickelback.
I do too.
I
do
used
too.
to
I
work
do too.
out. I would like get all pumped up in my 20s when I'd be working out in the gym, and I would listen to Nickelback was like my
Oh,
jam.
yeah.
like
Look
him.
at this photograph.
Yes.
What the heck is on Joey's head? I kept it clean.
We love it.
Thank you. I really like them. Okay, that was fun. Okay, we mentioned celebrities a little bit, seeing Angie K and seeing other people. You both have met a lot of celebrities during your career. Is there, I wish we could talk about all of the encounters, but is there one that was super memorable or impactful to you in your life? Is there one that kind of stands out to you?
I think mine is just more of a childhood crush, so that's why. And he smelled so good and he looked so good. Nick Lachey.
I remember
Dude,
that.
What's Left of Me, 98 Degrees, Forever. I wanted to marry him. He married the wrong Jessica the first time. That's why they got
The
divorced.
wrong Jessica. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
And he was really nice when we met him.
Such a nice,
He's a
just
really
good
cool dude.
Midwestern guy.
Yeah.
You know, just a real man's man.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
I miss the boy band era. I was a
I
big fan
know.
of like the, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. That was like my time. I feel like I
They're
miss the
back.
boy bands.
They're
Yeah.
back,
They're
baby.
coming back. Come back. Yes. Yes. Okay. Nick Lachey. That's a good one.
Mine would be probably in '95 when I was in Jacksonville, and I'm a huge fan of music, especially rock music. Was a huge fan and still am a fan of Van Halen, but Eddie Van Halen. So had a chance to meet Van Halen backstage, and that was the Sammy days. But still, for me, that was to meet Sammy and all the guys from Van Halen. It was a quick meet and greet. It was one of those where you kind of get in, you get a picture, but it's still like. And I met him another time after that with Gary Sharon, who used to sing for Extreme when he was singing for Van Halen
Extreme,
for 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember
yeah.
those guys?
Yes. Yep.
So I met him again, and he's quiet. Eddie Van Halen, he didn't say a whole lot, and I didn't say a whole lot because I was literally starstruck. But that was, for me, just to grow up with that band and just respect his guitar playing. And he's since passed away, but it was pretty memorable those 2 times meeting him.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, and it's so much more impactful too when they're actually nice
Yeah.
too. You know,
Oh,
when you
yeah.
meet someone, you're like, I
Totally.
don't know how this is going to ruin it
True.
for me.
Right.
You know, so it's nice to know that there are nice celebrities out there. Speaking of celebrities, Taylor Swift. I found this article. I was laughing so hard yesterday. So there's a husband that makes his wife pay into the Taylor Swift swear jar whenever he mentions the star's name. And so we're seeing her everywhere, right? With the Chiefs and just everywhere. You can't get away from Taylor Swift. How do you guys feel? Is she overrated? Is she underrated? Do we love her?
I know where Jess is going with this one. Yeah.
Have you met her? Has she been on?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, she doesn't really come to Utah, which is so bizarre. She came once.
And snubbed us.
Yeah,
She
and
didn't
then-
give us love on social,
no,
remember?
and never came
It's
back.
like it never happened.
It's so bizarre. And she has so many Swifties in this town. So many kids and girls that grow up loving
So
her
many.
and wanting to, go to her shows and wear her apparel. I'm like, why does she snub Utah? It's so weird. I love her. I think she deserves every bit of success. She works her butt off. She definitely has a presence. She definitely commands a stage of millions. And she started as this little teenager or preteen
Yeah,
with a
15.
guitar,
Yeah.
and just she's worked for everything she's earned. And I think it's awesome.
And she started in, was it country?
Yeah. Tim
Yeah.
McGraw was her first song, remember?
That's right.
Oh, that's
yeah.
right.
She was like 15 years old
And
or
She
something.
was young.
And she wasn't that good of a singer. She was okay.
Yeah.
Obviously enough to get a start, but man, she's just been so good about working her craft, and she is a superstar.
Okay. Okay.
She's an amazing artist, no question. I think one of the best of all time as far as her writing skills, musically and lyrically. But I'm kind of over the thing.
I'm kind of with you.
Really?
Yeah, I am. I have to say, okay, so it's interesting because I was over at my dad's house the other day. My dad is like, we grew up on the Beatles, and he's very into like songwriting, and
Nice.
he had a friend that said to him, you need to listen to Taylor Swift. And this is my dad. And my dad went, what? Like, I haven't even like really thought about that. And so he showed him some songs from Taylor Swift. And my dad just said that her writing
Yeah.
has to go down in history as one of the best writers.
She's incredible.
So I don't know that side of it. I'm only familiar from what I hear kind of on the radio and things. And so to me, it's overrated, but I know that there are so many people that love her that you see out there.
Right.
So there must be something there.
yeah.
maybe I'll give it a chance one day. I don't know.
Well, and Bruce Springsteen said the same thing. It was his daughter, who I think she's in her 20s, said you have to listen to, and he said the same thing about her songwriting. And he's an amazing songwriter.
Totally.
He said she is incredible. So she truly is. I mean, if you like even that first song, that Tim McGraw, you're like, wow, what a well-written song for a teenager.
True.
Yeah.
You know?
And she was really young to do all that. So, okay, that was fun. Is there anything you want? So before we get to the Fresh Five, which is a fun little game we like to play with you guys, is there anything you want to say to your listeners, to your fans about, just a message of like supporting you through all of this and coming into the new like podcast world with you?
You and I talk about this, Frankie, a lot. The thank you doesn't even cover it. It feels like thank you's not even good enough, and it doesn't even come close. We are just so blown away by the love and the support and the prayers and the messages, and that's what's kept us going. I mean, that's what has kept us going and picking ourselves off the floor. And I don't even know. It makes
it's hard
us
to put it into
speechless.
words.
Yeah.
It's kept us alive, and I know that sounds extreme, but it's true. I mean, alive inside and out, just knowing that, because again, those connections that we built over the years, and then they were just gone. And we knew that we were hoping that we would, go the route that we went. But again, there was that little that window there that we were just questioning ourselves. Like, is this really what we're supposed to be doing? Maybe we do stink, the way it happened. And so, we can't even put it into words how much we appreciate you guys and just the support and the love and the connection that we have.
It's so special, too, because even when we launched a little over a month ago, the messages that came through that, I listened to you guys when I was a kid in the car on my way to school with my parents. And now I listen with my kids and, the people that are grandparents. And now my grandkids are in the car because that's the show that my kids grew up with. And I love that we're generational. And it's true. Towards the end, it was kind of, we felt like we were broken and it didn't work anymore. And it was time to hang it up. But that's not true. We're generational. Our show will live on. And think about, we're nowhere near this, but I mean, think about, like you just said, the Beatles or U2 or Special Van Halen. When you have that love in your heart for a show or a certain person or whatever it is, it just doesn't go away.
Right.
It's in your heart. Yeah. And we don't take it for granted that we're in your ear and in your heart. That's such a big deal. And it's just magic.
Yeah.
Well, I can see why you have so much support. You're both stars and you're both very kind people. So, I think that reads and through radio, and people would be driving to work, maybe not wanting to head into work, a certain day, having a bad day, and you make them smile. You make them laugh, and turn their day around and affect them and their lives in so many other ways. So I can see why you have so much support. We love you guys. We're so excited for you. To listen to the podcast, where do we go?
So you want to go to our website, listen to frankieandjess.com, or if you're on Apple or Spotify, but just to make sure that you find it, go to listen to frankieandjess.com. We've got the links there for the Apple and Spotify links to get directly to our, and then it should be, if it's not already, on every platform, but those are the two big ones, and then it'll kind of shoot out to all the platforms.
So website first.
So I would say, or some people are able to find us on Apple and Spotify, but just to make sure that you find us directly, just go to the website.
Okay, perfect. Okay, are we ready to do this Fresh Five?
Yes. Okay, let's do it.
I'm so excited. Okay, first one. What is your go-to snack at the movies? You're in the theater, you're craving something, or
Milk
maybe
Duds.
Milk Duds. All right.
Junior Mints.
Nice. I'm a Junior Mint too.
Okay,
yeah, I'm a Junior Mint too. Yeah, and I have to have popcorn.
Oh yeah.
And for some reason, the soda always sounds so good when they have it on the commercial with like the bubbles, and so usually I'll like get all of it. It's the ice. That's what it is. Favorite TV series? Do you have one? Is there one that you love? Maybe not a favorite, but it's like up there. There's maybe a few favorites, but is there one that you love or you're binging right now?
Okay, mine's a split. Obviously, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So I watched that on my own. My husband pretends he's not into it, but whatever. He's like, yeah, I'll just sit down there with you in the basement. I'm like, okay.
But I'm not paying attention.
Listening.
Right.
But as a family, we've always watched The Challenge on MTV, VH1.
Oh, okay.
How they get together, Road Rules, Real World.
I remember those.
Oh, we love them. And they still have them. And so now our son, who's 16, sits down with us. So that's our family show. So I'd say my own personal, binge would be Housewives of Salt Lake. And then the family show's The Challenge.
The Challenge. Yeah. I'm going to have to check that out.
It's
I used
fun.
to love those ones.
So, of course, I love The Housewives. But if we're thinking about some like shows that are just, you talk about like in your heart because you're just enamored by them, probably Ozark on Netflix.
That one was
right?
so good.
I mean, a dark show, obviously, but
Yeah.
such a good show. like the Breaking Bad's, like that show for me. I've watched that thing probably 3 times over the years. Yeah.
So good.
But as far as the go-tos right now, stuff that you put on that's in the background, and we've got a 7-year-old, so he loves comedy. So just like the classic Seinfeld or King of Queens, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
We love that.
My husband's a big Seinfeld fan.
Nice.
He's probably seen every episode 100 times.
Oh, yeah.
So he's
That's
always
funny.
saying lines and things, and I'm like, Seinfeld? He's like, yep. He loves that too.
That's funny. Okay, what about you, Carrie?
He loves it. I love I would say Sopranos.
Oh,
I think would be
us
my
too.
favorite,
Yeah.
of all time.
That's a
That
good
was
one.
just such a great
yeah.
show. Ozark is up there too.
It's good, right?
That's a really good one. Would you stay overnight in a haunted house for $1,000?
Oh, no. No way.
I'd do it for free. But yes, $1,000.
He's lived in houses like that.
Yeah, I actually did.
Have you?
Oh yeah, the house with my ex-wife when we moved here, back in '97. So it was before we bought our first house. We lived it was a cool little house. It was in South Salt Lake, but it was full on haunted.
Dang.
We don't have enough time to tell some of the stories.
We'll do that on the next one because I want to know.
But it involved the cops, about 20 police officers. When I called the police, and it was something that I heard in the crawl space, I'll just tell you that. When they looked into the crawl space, I thought there was an entrance from the outside of the house into the crawl space. There wasn't. The only entrance was from the inside. There were boxes on this door. I know, sorry, you just got chills.
No,
It's creepy.
It is
I
creepy.
smelled cigarette smoke coming from, I heard noises. Our family cat heard noises coming from the crawl space underneath this house. And then I got from the neighbor that said to me the next day, because I said, sorry about all the cops last night. And he's like, I didn't see him. His dad was like a detective with that police agency years ago. And he said he always suspected I told this on the air, didn't I? I did.
Gosh,
good.
this is crazy.
He always suspected it was like the husband of the homeowner did away with the friend and buried him in the crawl space. And I smelled cigarette smoke and heard noises underneath. And so it was crazy. Anyway, I know what I smell. I mean, look at my nose.
I believe
this
it.
is like
I
Toucan
believe
Sam
it.
right here. Yeah, I smelled
knows what he
cigarette
smells.
smoke. And I don't smoke, so it's like I knew I smelled cigarette smoke.
I believe in that stuff. I really do.
It was we couldn't get out of the house fast enough. It was a great house, but we couldn't get out of it fast enough. It was
You're
just
like, bye.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh my
not an
goodness.
angel in the crawl
So
space. Maybe a
Frankie's,
demon.
Frankie's been there, done that. Or he doesn't need
Very.
1K to do that. Okay. Favorite concert. This is probably going to be hard because I'm sure you have a bunch. But is there one that stood out to you that is in your mind, like a good memory?
There's a lot of those.
I know this is gonna be hard. Probably more recent, Matchbox 20, because that just took me back to college. And Rob Thomas is still so good. He sounds good. He looks good. I was like, oh, it was
Still doing his thing.
and I did. It's one of those where you will take pictures at the concert, take videos, but do you ever really go back and look at the videos? That concert I did.
Really?
Laying in bed that night, I was doing it, and then that sounds dirty.
And Kevin's like, what are you doing with your phone? Are you calling some? What
She's
are you
like,
watching?
hold on, I got to look at this video real quick. Pause.
I still go back and I'll watch his episode. Now I'm all flustered.
Yeah, no, what episodes are we talking about?
I'll watch
I
clips
love
from
you.
the concert. It was so good.
That's
it was
awesome.
so good.
Matchbox 20.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was a good one.
I would have to say every Rush show that I've been to.
yeah.
But if we're going to say like one concert that sticks out, it was Monsters of Rock in Detroit at the Pontiac Silverdome in 1988.
Still that one, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Metallica. This is who was on the bill. It was 9 Hours of Rock, where the Detroit Lions used to play at the Pontiac Silverdome. So Metallica, Kingdom Come, which was like a Led Zeppelin ripoff band from the 80s, Dokken, the Scorpions, and Van Halen.
Dang.
Wow.
That's a good show.
It was an amazing. I was like 16, 17. It was just, and saw it with a buddy of mine, childhood friend. It was awesome.
Wow.
That's
That would
cool.
be memorable. That's really, really cool.
Okay, now you got to go.
Yeah. What about you?
Ooh. Probably Prince.
Ooh.
I got to see Prince. I was 15. It was 1995.
Was it at the E Center?
Yes.
Okay, I remember that show. I
Yes.
was there too.
And
Oh wait, did you say 95?
yeah.
Oh, I was here in 97, so
Yeah.
it wasn't that
It was
show then.
95, but I think
Okay.
it was, what is it, Maverick Center now?
Yeah.
And it was E Center, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just remember thinking, I've just loved him ever since I was a kid. And so I remember just thinking, what a legend I'm seeing. Like, even at 15 years old, I knew like what a magical experience it was. So,
That's
so Prince
cool.
for sure. Last one. What is making you smile in life right now?
Oh, I love that. That's a lot. That's a big
Yeah,
list.
yeah, it is.
Our new podcast, our families. Gosh, I think that pretty much sums it up, because our Frankie and Jess listeners are our family. So I would just say our podcast and our family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because looking back at when this all happened and just when it felt like life was kind of imploding or crumbling down, it's all about the lens and how you look at things and your perspective on the silver linings. And it was what we were going to do, our relationship, Jess and I, and then your family. And, we've got a little boy, and it's just like you got to really focus on what's in front of you, and stop worrying about all this stuff in the future. It's like you got to look at what's right there in front of you now, and that's the stuff that truly makes you happy, and you're blessed to have that.
It's true.
All how you look at things,
And
the
it's
lens.
easier said than done, but it's
Sure.
when we get our heads in the future, that's when we get anxious.
Ooh,
That's
boy.
when we start freaking out. And it's
Yeah.
only today's promised. And Carrie, you and I talk about this a lot with the passing of your mother. Only
Yeah.
today is promised. And
It's true.
we just have to, like Frankie said, be aware and be present in today. And it's so much easier said than done. But I think if we all make that more of a New Year's resolution, if you will, I know it's February, but just to be present. And a lot of us are on our phones. Just put the phone upside down, put it in another room, and just be. It takes a lot of the anxiousness away.
And you notice the difference, when
yeah.
you do that.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And live that life. Because you just never know how much is guaranteed. So live that life and listen to their podcast.
Thank you.
Because that's going to bring you a lot of joy. Okay, one more time, where can we listen to you guys?
So go to listen to frankieandjess.com, and you'll see the Apple and Spotify links right there, or just search for us on Apple or Spotify.
Okay,
Thanks,
amazing.
babe.
Congrats on the podcast.
Thank you.
We love you.
Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Fresh Off the Set. Please rate, review, and subscribe. And we will see you next week. Congrats, you made it to the end. If you want to continue to freshen up your day, you can watch us on Fresh Living every weekday on CBS Channel 2 in Utah at 1 o'clock. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, KUTV Fresh Living, and follow us on social media. We will see you next week.